Welcome to Wadsworth History on Film, a program presented by the Wadsworth Area Historical Society and designed to record the oral history of Wadsworth for posterity. And this is a special program for posterity because we're going to record this one for the year 2064 when Wadsworth celebrates its 250th anniversary. We're presently finished with our 200th anniversary here in Wadsworth, and today we have two special guests who helped to put it all together. They are the photographer and the videographer for the entire year and did a wonderful, wonderful job. We have Tom Stugmeyer, who did all the pictures and thousands of them. He's going to tell you about that. And then we have Bob Parmalee, who was the videographer, and whatever that thing is, whatever you do, I don't have any idea what you do with that, but you know how to do it, Bob. And so since we're talking to you, Bob, how about starting with telling us a little bit about yourself, where you were born, what you do, where you live, family, and that kind of thing.
Well, I'm a life resident of Wadsworth, born here, raised here.
Would you like to tell us when you were born?
Well, I was born in 1941.
1941.
May 19th of 1941. And my family on the Parmalee side, they are longtime residents of Wadsworth.
They go back about 150 years.
I would guess, yeah. I don't know exactly, but in the area that long, especially.
Yeah, I have their genealogy all the way back to about 1850 or so, well, 1860.
Yeah, and then on the Hall side, my grandfather was H.J. Hall, who owned a trucking company here in Wadsworth, and he actually moved here from Kent, but and then started his trucking company here in town, and so we've been around Wadsworth for a long time. I have two children. My daughter lives in Medina, and my son lives in Nashville, Tennessee. And my daughter has 3 grandchildren. My son doesn't have any children, but their names are Abigail Gaiman, and we have Janelle and then Josiah.
Now, which Gaiman did she marry?
Well, the Gaiman she married, that's an interesting story in itself, was from near Reading, Pennsylvania.
That's where the other ones came from, too.
Exactly. And the funny part is that when they got married and we realized that the Gaimans here in town, and I said, are you related? And they said, well, they used to, the Gaiman girls, as we call them, and they are still alive.
2 of them are alive.
Yes, that's right. And they used to play together as kids in Pennsylvania. So there is a tie-in there. It was sort of interesting.
Probably distant relatives or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Your grandfather, Jerry Hall, was also a committee, or rather a assemblyman in 1939.
That's correct.
At the state assembly. We now call them representatives. And he's also the mayor of Wadsworth.
That's correct. He was the mayor of Wadsworth for, I think it was only 1 term. In fact, he was here. He built the swimming pool. Or I mean, his administration built the Grandview swimming pool.
Right. The WPA provided the money for it, and it was down by the stadium. Of course, in 2064, the stadium may not be there anymore, but the stadium was in the southwest part of Wadsworth, off Grandview Avenue, and the swimming pool was there from 1939 and maybe 15 or 20 years later. Then they tore it down because it was outmoded, and then they built it with the Steiner's Youth Center. They put the swimming pool there, and then that's been torn down since. And now we have an outdoor swimming pool right next to the high school, and maybe the high school won't be here in 2064, but the high school is on the top of the hill on Broad Street on what is called the Falk Farm. Now that's a little bit of history that people might want to know at that time. Let's go to Tom. Now, Tom, you have some beautiful white hair there, but you're not too terribly old.
No, I'm 58. I was born in 1956, November the 17th, 56, and I was born in Middletown, Ohio, down between Cincinnati and Dayton. and ended up this direction when I went to Mount Union College.
What did you major in Mount Union?
Math, physics, and astronomy.
Math, physics, and astronomy. We can get a job with math and physics.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get a job with astronomy.
No, that's there were some goals there for the NASA and the space program at the time, and then a lot of that budget and funding was cut. I graduated in '79, and so then I went into manufacturing for a good number of years, and then for the last 2 years I've been working full-time with downtown with Oz2 Productions and doing all the photography and everything. So
well, that's wonderful. Yeah.
So have 2 children. Stephen is he'll be 30 this year. He's captain in the Air Force. He's in D.C. and Katie's a teacher here in town. She's
in
28.
Wadsworth?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good.
So,
we need teachers in Wadsworth. Good teachers,
So.
I'm sure she's a wonderful one. Now, one of the things that people always do, and we found this out particularly when we were doing the research for the 200th anniversary, is to take 1 billion pictures, but they don't put anything on the back so we know who they are. Actually, the Wadsworth Area Historical Society has over 1,500,000 pictures. That's a lot of pictures.
That's a lot of pictures.
A lot of pictures. Now, some of them are on, what do you call it, the film,
Mhm.
and they're not developed yet.
Okay, just
but
on the
nonetheless,
negatives,
we're counting the negatives. That's
Negatives,
what I was thinking for. They aren't developed yet. But among those, we have only a little over 1,000 that are identified.
Wow.
But now, something that you did, and you did when you did your picture taking and videographing, or whatever you call it, videography work, it's all going to be identified. Is that correct?
Yes.
How did you identify it? Or what did you
Well,
do?
the majority of mine are, and when I get them all edited up and put on the disc, as we'll talk about later, they'll all be identified by the Wadsworth Bicentennial, a date, maybe a little description, just in the digital name of the picture. And since most of, well, in fact, they'll all be on electronically stored in the time capsule, and so there'll be a description in the digital name of the date.
Now, our hope is that they have something that they can play it back in 2016.
Well, and again, those are all considerations, and when we put the information in the time capsule, at least at this point, what we plan on doing is we'll probably put them in on a DVD, but we'll include a DVD player, and we'll probably also put them on a memory card or memory stick and include a card reader with that. We'll probably go both directions along the philosophy that you probably can't go home and play an 8-track tape now, but if you had an 8-track tape, but if you had an 8-track tape player, we still have the technology, the jacks to plug into them to use them. So just with the hope in the future that if we provide the readers there, they'll be able to pick up the information coming off of them. So
now, Tom, approximately how many pictures did you take during the full year that we were, well, 9
Well,
months?
actually, it started back in 2000 and the fall of 2011. I was looking, someone had asked me for an email address, and I was just doing a search for it, and I found the original email from November of 2011 when I sent Roger Havens and copied Robin, Mayor Lawbaugh, and asked if I could contribute some photography to the Bicentennial.
You'll learn to volunteer.
Yeah, and
it's been a full-time job for you.
It has, and so then in, I believe it was 2012, there were a couple of meetings that started, and I mean, I have pictures from the very first organizational meeting all the way through. So it wasn't just the year. It was actually 3 years,
3 years of pictures.
and then
Wow.
along with
Wow.
the book. So there's, I have over, the last time I did a backup, I have over 35,000 files related to those photographs, but actual number of pictures are probably in the high 20,000 range, because there's, when you edit the way I shoot everything in RAW format, digital RAW format, which is like a digital negative. And then so you have that image, and then when you edit that, there's another image where all the editing information, the metadata is stored. So there's another file with that. Then there's typically a Photoshop file where you touch everything up, and then the final JPEG image. So a lot of all the final images that are produced actually have 4 files. One's the one you see, but there's other you know, the edited files and versions of those. So like I said, in the upper 20,000s with you know, actual pictures taken.
Tom, I'm hoping that the people in the year 2064 will understand better what all those words were. I speak 3 languages, and the languages that you were just speaking I didn't understand at all, but JPEGs and what's all that other stuff?
Well, the JPEG is the format of most of the digital images that you see. I mean, when you take a picture out of your camera, if you go wherever you go to get it processed, when they print it out, the digital image is in a JPG format, JPEG format, and the other format that I use a Nikon camera, and it's a raw image. It's like a digital negative. There's nothing, when that image comes out of the camera, there's nothing done to it. There's no processing. It's a raw digital file. And like with a JPEG camera that you may have, when you take that picture, the camera does the processing. It color corrects, it'll lighten, it'll darken, it'll sharpen. The way the raw image comes out, and you have it gives you a lot more variation of being able to save a light image, a dark image. You can touch up areas, and it's a much more again much more detailed, lossless type of an image. So
now, Bob, if you promise not to confuse me with all of those words that he did, and actually I'm really pleased that you did that, Tom, because I would want the people in the year 2064 to know the technical part of this thing, and
because it may be gone then.
It might be gone.
You know, it's like it'd be like people in the '60s talking about some of the push processing of the film and type of thing. Right. Correct. Yeah.
And then I would also like them to know that my age group doesn't do this at all. I mean, we have no understanding of this whatsoever. So, and just, let's see, you were born in 56, and I was born in 31. In a matter of just a few years, the technology has increased so significantly that even though I think I'm fairly knowledgeable, you know, and get around, and I can read and write and so forth, but the technology has gone so far so fast. They say that the more knowledge has been learned in the past 5 years than all of the knowledge put together that was learned from the beginning of time until 5 years ago. So now hit us with what you did with videography and
well,
all I see is that you have this little thing that you go around like this.
Right,
and next thing I know, I have these beautiful pictures.
We shoot it in digital HD photography.
HD is what?
HD is high definition.
High definition, okay.
And you're right, that's all changing. We're going even further than that now. We're going to ultra high definition.
And what does that do? What does that mean?
Well, it's just they're calling it 4K, and it's just the size of the file and how defined it is. And the resolution is raised, and I'm sure by 2064 we'll probably look at it in 3D. They'll probably do everything in 3-dimensional, and I would assume. But we shot everything in high definition. We edited it, put it on DVD. And of course, here at WCTV, they show the things and they store them. So they're stored on DVDs at this time, and of course they'll be put in the file. And it's nice. I didn't realize that they'll put an actual DVD player in the time capsule, so that's a good idea, so that they can retrieve these. Because as we remember, when we had floppy disks, computers came out, and if you have floppy disk today, you probably can't find anybody that can get anything off of it, you know.
Bob, while we're talking there, you talked about WCTV. How about giving us a little background on what this station does and how it got here and so forth, since I'm sure you were involved from the beginning?
Well, I wasn't quite involved from the beginning, but I know a lot of the people that were. You know, of course, Homer Baldwin was a big pusher of public broadcast TV, and the station was, well, between his help and Bill Lyron and
Who was Bill Lyron?
Bill Lyron was the
service director
of the City of Wadsworth, and the government put together these channels, which were now they call them PEG channels. It's public education and government channels.
Public education, PEG, P-E-G, PEG education and government.
Right, channels.
And those are the channels we have here.
That's right.
For public television, right?
That's correct. And the City of Wadsworth formed, well, I should go back, and it was originally formed by Time Warner Incorporated through an agreement with the City of Wadsworth, and then later, I don't know how many years later, it was turned over to the city, and now the city runs the channels, and they do just that. They do educational stuff with the schools. They do all government broadcasts, city council, all the meetings that are taking place there, and then also projects like we've done with the Bicentennial to cover those things. They air them on their local channels, and of course they also store them. So for, and we'd have to ask John how many. I know there's thousands of.
John who?
John Matting, who is
and
the.
Who is John Matting?
He is the manager of the WCTV station.
And who else is in the?
Well, we have Joanna Perino. She's also one of the. Well, there's three of them that do it. We call them the 3 J's. It's John Bernard, Joanna Perino, and John Matting. Right. John is the manager, and
we're going to interview all three of those people eventually to have the same kind of program for year 2064, so that they'll know how this all got put together. Since we're on this broadcast type of communication, which of course this is, how about, Tom, you very, very quickly telling us about the new radio station which was initiated in 2014, and tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, we started, it started back with Joe and Susan Arpad.
Dr. Joe and Dr. Susan Arpad.
Arpad, correct. And I wasn't involved back then, probably 5-6 years ago. They had been involved in a couple of radio stations and broadcast in their educational and collegiate university careers, and had always thought that it would be great for Wadsworth to have a community radio station, and had funded studies and everything back then, and just last year the FCC started reviewing applications for low power FM stations. There were a good number of years they just didn't do it, and the stack got kind of high, and so they started going through and reviewing them. And of course our application was in, and we received our FCC license for the low power FM broadcast. And so last year we received the license in February, the construction permit in February, and so we purchased the equipment, and as of December of 2014 we started automating the music on the internet, streaming online. And just this past week, that would be February the 9th, 2015, we started our live morning show. We have 2 on-air personalities, Matt Anthony and Tina Heiberg, who are doing a morning show in our studios, interviewing, doing just several different segments, interviewing Wadsworth alumni, citizens, and anyone in the area related to Wadsworth. And then we are going to also be broadcasting on air on the FM frequency of 97.1. We're working on getting our low power FM antenna up, and that will reach out about a 5 to 8 mile radius. It's right now it's going to be on the water. There's a water tower at the electric department. Most people know where Sacred Heart Church is on Broad Street. The electric department that's just south of Sacred Heart Church there's a water tower there.
Across
and the antenna
the street.
Across the street.
And about a block, half a block east.
East, correct. On that water tower, the FM antenna and the transmitter will be located, and we'll be broadcasting on air. And again, the station is going to be mainly about Wadsworth. I mean, we'll cover a few adjacent areas, but we're not really doing any national news or that type of thing unless it affects Wadsworth. And so it's going to be a community station where people can go for information here.
I want to make sure that we got that in. Now, when you had that videographer camera, how about giving us an idea of how big it was that you were able to carry with you? And then maybe you can tell us about the first ones that you carried.
Well, the first ones were a camera and a recording device. So you had a big device that then recorded on tape.
How big was it?
Well, I don't
And
know.
how much
It
did it
was
weigh?
you know, a suitcase about that size. That's what it looked like. And then you had a large camera and cables and batteries
kept it
and
on
all
your
that
shoulder.
you put on your shoulder.
And it was about this long. and about
Well, it
this
wasn't
high.
quite that big, but it was pretty good size, yeah. And then as time went on, we've got studio type cameras, shoulder carried. They were large cameras. Now, some of the stuff we're doing now is with a small camera. The quality's fantastic, and they're.
How big would it be right now?
Well, they're probably about that long, about that wide. You know, little camera.
Little camera.
But the quality is just fantastic with the high definition, and I'm sure in 2064 they're going to probably be smaller and lighter, and you know, it'll be just you know, I can't. It's sort of exciting to think of what's going on in that realm.
It'll probably be something they have on their glass. They attach to their glasses or something like that. I was going through a documentary on the Ford automobile, and I suspect that neither of the two of you remember the Model T Fords that had 3 pedals. Do you remember them?
I do.
You do remember them?
I edited a lot of pictures of them.
No.
That's
Well, as a matter of fact, in the community picnic that we had with the Bicentennial, we had the Akron Model T Club come, and a friend of mine is in that club, and he took me for a ride, and I had the camera with me, and he took me for a ride in his Model T, and we rode around Memorial Park, and it, you know, of course, you're riding inside, but it's sort of interesting to.
They have to put their feet on there for going forward, and then there's a third pedal to make it go backwards, and so forth. And incidentally, I hope that you have that we can tell the people in 2064 to look for that, because that is significant. Then a little bit later on, Henry Ford himself said, well, the car is evolving very, very rapidly, and I'm sure that one of these days, instead of having the 3 pedals on the floor, we'll have another way of changing gears. Well, it wasn't too terribly long after that there was a gear shift that was on the floor. And when he saw that in 1926 or 27, he said, wow, how far we have come. From the 3 pedals, now we have a gear shift. Now we have only 2 pedals on the floor, we have a gear shift. Well, he did live long enough to see this. In 1938, 1939, then they had the automatic transmissions. And Who knows what they're going to have probably in 2064, but everything has evolved, and we keep on thinking that we have the very, very latest of things, and yet 2 days later, or 2 years later, or 2 centuries later, it's all passé. Tom, let's go back to you for a second. Now, as I remember, there are 24 hours in a day. Now, that's not going to change, I don't think, but you never can tell. In 2064, there probably will still be 24 hours in a day. How did you manage your time to be everywhere all the way? As a matter of fact, the word that I like to use that sounds almost as if it's a disease is that you're peripatetic. And peripatetic means that you're everywhere all the time. And you're ubiquitous. You're everywhere I go, you're there. Every time I go, you're there. Morning, noon, night. How did you do it? What did you do? How did you?
Well, it was just the scheduling. I mean, you know, working there with Jack or whatever. I mean, it's more of a self-employed type position, so you know you could come and go as needed, and luckily with all the events and everything, I mean they were scheduled to where I could beat all of them, and a lot of it just had to do with scheduling. It was here, 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 and there were times when you know, you put this in the car because you weren't going to get back to get it or do this until the next day, and it was just a lot of scheduling. But with the way that the Bicentennial was planned out, I knew when all the meetings were and everything else, and so it you know, it was just able to work out. And we were looking here the other day, going back over a couple of events and everything, and looking for some things, and I was actually lucky enough, and fortunate enough to be. I don't think there was anything that we missed photographically. Again, in any of the events, but I mean, I was even able to get to the committee meetings and take pictures of the committee members, and even a lot of the back, you know, some of the behind the scenes things that went on. When Paulette Grubb was doing painting for the flats.
Let's go with Grubb.
Okay.
Mrs. Grubb. This is I'll come up with her first name because I know it very, very well. As a matter of fact, I was her principal at one time,
Paulette.
about 60. Pardon me,
Oh,
Paulette. Paulette Grubb. Paulette Petrich Grubb did the pictures. She painted the pictures. Beautiful job
flats,
of painting
yeah.
all of the. Tell us what she did.
Well, she came over and talked to us and got pictures of old downtown, just through the eras, and they made. I don't know if it was her husband or who actually made the flats, but they were 4 foot by 8 foot panels with 2x2s and plywood, and she had painted the scenes of the different buildings from downtown. And I think they started on that back in June or July of 2014. And she had actually done them for the Bicentennial Ball, which was in November.
November 22nd.
Correct. And what she did with them is in the hallway of the Galaxy Restaurant where the ball was held.
Let's tell us where the Galaxy Restaurant is right now, because it may not be there in.
Okay, well, the Galaxy Restaurant is just north of I-76 on Route 94 here in Wadsworth. It's a banquet center, a restaurant banquet center, and a lot of the events and dinners and luncheons for the Bicentennial were held there. And the sort of the end of the year kind of grand finale was the Bicentennial Ball. And what was done there was the flats that Paulette painted. She lined the hallway going into the banquet room with the flats, so it was like you were walking through the old downtown before you went into the banquit.
It's astounding. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful painting.
Excellent, yeah, excellent. And in getting back with, like I said, with some of the pictures, what I was able to do was, and again, they let me know that they were where they were painting these and everything. So I have photographs of her and all the people that were helping her at different stages painting those. They were painted in the old, well, let's see, it was the original Ben Franklin store on the west side of High Street.
About 1,000 feet up from, well, no, about 500 feet up from the center of the town.
Correct, correct. And
on the west side.
Right, correct.
We have to identify these geographically because
right, they might
be
right,
here.
Yeah.
right. And anyway, the Ace Hardware store that was in there had gone out of business, and they were remodeling and everything in there. And while they were remodeling, they were Paulette. They were able to work on the flats in there because they had large areas in there to paint and store and everything else. And so I was able to go in there. Again, they kept me informed what they were doing, and we documented, you know, some of the painting along the ways and those type of things. And you know, again, along the same thing like with the time capsule. The 1964 time capsule, when it was excavated from the cemetery, when all that was done, I mean, they obviously let me know, and I was down there and we photographed bringing that up out of the ground and all of that documentation. And then when we first opened the time capsule, that was all videotaped, and I mean everything. There was a lot of the behind the scenes things that were also done that and again, those pictures aren't out there yet. I still have all that to edit up.
Well, I would imagine you have
yeah.
30,000. Why aren't you done yet?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Come on.
But so that they, like I said, a lot of the documentation or the details, along with the boy with the boot statue, that was extensively documented. I mean, again, Bill Alexander and Dan Freeman just kept me up to date on, okay, we're going to be doing this day, that day, and so I would go down to East Park where the statue is located, which is just east of the current gazebo, and anytime something, you know, when they broke ground for it, when they, you know, just documenting all the manufacturing along the way. And we also went up to where they were pouring the statue up just south west of Toledo. The name escapes. Yeah, yeah. And so I went up there and was able to film and photograph the manufacturing process for the statue. So again, a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we were able to document.
Did you go up with him, Bob?
No, I did not. But let me tell you, the true commitment of this man to this project, I mean, it's overwhelming, and I really have to pat him on the back for all the things that he did, and as he says, all the different events and the background stuff that he did. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. There's no question about that. You're going to be a hero for this one. Mm-hmm. But you know, while we're talking, we're stopped here for a quarter of a second. One of the things that came to my mind a little while ago, as a matter of fact, I think I might have seen this on the news the other day, where one of the videographers was taking some pictures, and the person or the group of whom he was taking the pictures resented his being there, and they grabbed the camera and broke it. Did you have any problems like that?
No, we didn't have any problems like that. There was a few people that did not want to be photographed, I mean, naturally, but no, we didn't have any problems like that.
What about the people who wanted to be photographed and you didn't want to photograph them? They would come in there and they
Well, you have some of those too. But you know, going back, this is an interesting story. When we did the community picnic, our host here today, Caesar, was Elijah Wadsworth, and he portrayed him, and he made it very interesting too. We were in the park, and he was meeting. In fact, we met Tom Baldwin. We were there,
yes,
and we were talking to him. And I got so engrossed in what they were talking about the history of Wadsworth and things, that I wasn't even filming it. And I said to myself, "What are you doing? You're standing here. You're missing all this," because it was so interesting to hear them talking between them. And
And see, I found myself doing that too with the photographs. It's like, you know, with it's like first night, and you know, it's one of those things where afterwards, you know, it didn't seem like history when it was happening, but you realize it was, and you're standing there, and you get engulfed in the, you know, the speeches or the talk, and it's like, wait a minute, I forgot to hit the button. I mean, you're enjoying yourself so much, you forget what you're really there for. You know, it's like, great, I missed that because, you know, but so.
Well, if I were doing this, I would have forgotten to take the lens, what is that thing at the front of the lens cover off. You know, there are so many interesting things about this. We actually had a picture, rather we had a book. Someone designed a book to bring out a lot of the pictures from the old Wadsworth. What about that?
Oh, the Bicentennial picture book here? This was, a lot of these pictures started out, I mean, Jack Ollum, and who was the one of the Bicentennial co-chairs, and Roger Havens,
the other co-chair, and the mayor, the other co-chair.
Correct. And over the last
Robin
however many years, they've been bringing in and looking and scanning a lot of the old photographs that people were bringing in, and again came up with the idea of the Bicentennial picture book, coffee table book. It came out again around the Bicentennial, but the photographs in it really have nothing. I mean, they're not of the Bicentennial events. This book actually came out in the fall of 2013, prior to the Bicentennial actually starting. So anybody that buys this and think, you know, that it's going to be a Bicentennial event book, it is not. It is more of a pictorial history of Wadsworth. There are sections in here on businesses, churches, schools, parades, that type of thing, and so that was put together by Oz2 Productions. I did all the modern photography. Jim Cordes did all the layout of the book. The book was entirely done, other than the physical printing, the book was entirely done here in town.
Now, what part did Jim Cordes play in this?
Jim did all the layout and the graphic work, you know, like the cover, the graphics, the graphics, the cover work, inside the book, all of the way the photographs are laid out. This was all done here.
He knows how to do that.
Yes,
He's very, very good at that too.
Literally one picture at a time, moving, placing, the whole bit, and so that was that was the project prior to really the startup of the Bicentennial. One of the first the first large endeavors related to the Bicentennial. And there were, what we did was, then based on a lot of the old photographs, we planned out what new photographs we wanted to take. And Roger Havens, and he'd come up with the list. And it's funny, I still have that list. I found it the other day, and I thought, well, you know, I got all my little notes all over it, do this, do that type of thing. And so obviously I'm going to keep that as a memento.
Absolutely.
But it was, it took probably, we started photographing for this. Well, actually, a lot of the downtown scenes in this, I started in the summer of 2012. So then 2012 and into 2000 until the end of 13, the book went to print in September of 2013. And so from the summer of 2012 through September of 2013, we were gathering pictures. And literally right up to the last minute, we were trying to keep updated. Well, for example, Sacred Heart was in that time period was that's when they were building the new the rectory, the offices, and that the photograph that in here is actually the third one, the third panoramic shot that I put together of that, because it's like, well, we took the first one, and then there were so many radical changes. We were trying to keep the book as updated as possible, and so it just kind of how it evolved.
One of the things that you mentioned a few minutes ago, Bob, was the fact that I was in uniform. I had this uniform. Well, there are two things about the uniform that I think that the people in 2064 need to know. Number one, it was the wrong uniform. The British wore red, and the Americans wore, or the people on this, the ones who were on this side wore blue. And we went to the uniform place in Akron, and the person who made the arrangements, I've forgotten who it was particularly now, made the arrangements, said, we need to have a uniform for a general who was in the War of 1812. Oh, we have just the thing, the lady said. And she walked back there and she got this one. Well, when I went there to pick it up several weeks later, I guess probably in February of 2013, I went to pick it up. And I took one look at it and I said, oh, those are the wrong colors. Oh, no, 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 these are the right colors. So, well, General Elijah Wadsworth was on the American side. He was not a British, oh, no, no, well, this is what we ordered and this is what you're going to have to take. Well, I took it. It was actually very pretty, very nice. It was blue and red and white, and looked very patriotic. But it was they were the wrong colors. The second thing that we need to tell the people in 2064 is that General Wadsworth, as far as we know, never had a picture taken. We don't have any pictures. And we have checked everywhere from here to Connecticut to see if we could find a picture. So one of the things that I did, and I'm not too terribly computer literate, but I know how to do this, I Googled General Elijah Wadsworth, and guess which picture came up? My picture. My picture with the red, white, and blue uniform on. And
so you'll be the new face of Elijah Wadsworth in 2064.
People will think that that was what Elijah Wadsworth looked like, and it was not. It was not Elijah Wadsworth. So I don't know anything about computers, so I had my son, who was a computer, that's what he does for a living, to see if he can get that taken off. Well, they did. They took it off because he said, well, this is wrong. I don't know how he did it, but he said, this is wrong. And I was really pleased because that was historically inaccurate, and I didn't want that to happen. Not too much later, I'm going to say maybe a month or two later, someone who evidently knew that, and it was a person not from not here in Wadsworth, but I think it could have been a Wadsworth resident, knew that we were looking for a picture of Wadsworth. Send it to me, and here it was I. So people in 2064, I am not Elijah Wadsworth, and the uniform is wrong. You know, I wanted to get back to you on the videography too, Bob, because one of the things that we hope will happen in 2064 is that they will have the right type of equipment to run your. You said that you have high definition, and then you have ultra high definition.
Well, that's the new thing coming on is ultra high definition, and what they'll have is.
Well, what I'm thinking is you're going to put in something to run your pictures.
Correct.
Are you going to put something in the time
capsule?
Well,
the item that he's putting in will run.
Oh, it will run.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right.
The DVD player will run his video along with if it's put on. Also, if it's put on a compact flash card or an SD card or a thumb drive, if we get them large enough, it will run that also.
All right.
Correct.
Well,
correct.
Just so that we can advise the people in 2064 that they might have to have some special equipment. They won't if they put it on your flash drive and whatever that is.
And who knows? I mean, this industry of the media, and it's growing and changing so fast that who knows what they'll have.
One of the other questions I wanted to ask you, were there any super interesting kinds of things that happened while you were doing it? I'll give you an example. I was walking down in front of, well, there's no need to tell what the store was because it's not there already, but it was on the east side of High Street, almost to the square, and a family came running up to me and said, oh, my little daughter wants to have a picture taken of you with her. And it was fine. First of all, she's a cute little girl, and she was Afro-American, and the people were Caucasian, and they had adopted this little girl. Just a precious little thing, about 3 or 4 years old. And she wanted me to pick her up, and I did. I held her up, and they got a picture taken. About, maybe 2 or 3 months later, I got a letter from the friend of the person's whose little daughter that was, or that adopted daughter was, saying that they were able to get the adoption through the court. I guess it was there was a problem there. Adoption through the court, because they thought that the little girl was comfortable enough in the arms of General George Washington. In the arms of General George Washington, that she was well defined as far as her mental attitudes are concerned, and they were able to get the daughter.
Oh, that's funny.
Now, that was one example. As you were taking videographs or videography things from your point of view, did anything come up like that? Nothing, not that one particularly, but anything really interesting, super interesting, or touching, or anything?
Well, there is a lot of things. I mean, I hadn't thought about that, but there was a lot of moments that you take and you see afterwards what they really mean to people. I mean, at the picnic, we took a number of shots. There was the lady there, and I can't remember her name now. That she was part Indian, and she had the horse, and she was explaining about all the things that she did. Very interesting. You see people that just stand there and listen to every word she said, and really was interesting. The portrayal of the encampment of the soldiers was another thing.
Oh, that was a heart.
Well, yeah, and they
scary.
Explained, how they did things, and all those things were, I thought, and another thing was the baseball game.
Oh,
The old-time baseball game. I mean,
game.
The rules that they had for that baseball game, I never heard of before.
Who was that old man? Do you remember? The oldest one there, he's close to 80 years old. I talked to him afterwards, and he was in better shape than most of the younger people. The Indian lady, we had a little problem with, well, not a problem with her, but she insisted on staying with her wares all night long. Well, Memorial Park is several hundred acres, and it's not exactly what you would call well protected. We actually, and someone told her, so you really should not stay here all night long by yourself. This is not too terrible. She said, oh, don't bother me. It doesn't bother me, she said. Well, to make it a long story short, 4 men actually camped out on the outskirts of her tent so that she would be safe. And no one asked them to, but the little things like that.
Yeah.
How about you? Did you take some pictures that you wanted to?
Well, I mean, there were pictures, of course. I mean, one of the, I mean, people have asked, what's the money shot of the year, that type of thing, and again, just like Bob said, there really were so many, and I guess if I had to pick one, sort of the one would probably be the group shot of everyone that was involved after the statue was dedicated. We had all the dignitaries and everyone there that was involved, and that picture kind of summed up, the statue. There was one that wasn't really photography related after the, and again, I hope I can get through this one. After the statue was put in, if I'm in the other parking lot, I always walk by the statue and this and that. And in those first few days, flags needed adjusted or this and that. And I was walking by there. It was one morning in June, and there was a young mother that was there, and she was reading the names, or she had just finished the story, The Boy with the Boot, to the little kids. Little kids, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old. And then she said that now I'm going to read the names of these people to you because you may be in school. She goes, I don't know any of these people. And she said, but these were the people that have died in these wars, and that, you know, you may be in school with some of their families, and
children,
what they
yeah.
sacrificed, you know, you're reaping the benefits. And she, with the kids there, read the names of all the people on the plaque. And that was, you know, that was gut wrenching. Yeah, but to see someone that really understood the meaning of the statue there, that was probably the moment of the year for me.
That would be, yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You know, one of those names, I was principal of this one boy, this is 60 years ago. I was the principal of one of the boys who was killed in Vietnam. And the first person, one of the first persons to die in the Second World War at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, on that horrible, horrible day, was Horace Messam from Wadsworth, one of the first ones. And two other people from Wadsworth, Everett Perkins and Pete Tye, Lawrence Tye, we call him Pete, Lawrence Tye, were there also. And they were, Everett Perkins was right with him just before, and he had gone somewhere else, and the bomb killed Horace Messam. We lost 27 in World War II. And
you know when the statue was done or whatever, sort of one of the things that you thought about afterwards or whatever, but when it was designed, we needed, it was sad, but you have to leave room for future wars.
Unfortunately,
and
yes.
That's the sad part about it. I mean, it's like it's eight-sided, and we had but it's like we've got to leave room for the future, and that was kind of the sad part of the statue. It's not just the memory of the people that have already sacrificed. It's you've got to leave room for the people that may sacrifice in the future, and that was there were things like that were decisions that had to be made, but that was
I can still remember my father, who was in the first in the First World War, telling us when we were growing up, we had the war to end all wars. Thank God you people, our kids, the four of us boys, won't have to go to the war. My heavens, it didn't take very long. We were all four in the war. All four of us were in the war. So, unfortunately, those things have happened, and you're right. And as we speak right now, there probably is going to be another war very soon.
Unfortunately.
And the wars will always continue to be, and we probably should have left a lot of room because it's going to happen. Now, we have a few minutes left here, but there are some personal things that I think that ought to be brought out here. You mentioned that you had a schedule and so forth. You had a schedule, but how did you work this into, now both you're retired, but you're still working, but how did you work this into your day? Because you didn't have a part-time job, it was a full-time job, and you had two full-time jobs. Now, how did you work this into your day, Bob?
Well, in my case, I am retired. Now, as most retired people know, you're almost busier when you're retired than you are when you're working.
Right.
But it was a sort of a labor of love for me. I told Joanna here at WCTV that if she needed anybody, please give me a call.
And she did.
And she did. And she did. We started doing it. And I really, I enjoyed them. You were talking earlier about the things that went through, and I was going through those in my mind. And one of the things, Tom probably took a lot more pictures of this. It was the 4th of July celebration downtown, when we had the fireworks that were right downtown rather than out at the old Memorial Park. I mean, that was a real inspiring night. I mean, the amount of people that were out, and
6,000 people.
Yeah, exactly. And those type of events really were touching to me.
The only other time that I saw that many people occurred at the end of World War II, when everyone spontaneously came to the city of right into the center of town, and all the way down Main Street, as far as you could see, all the way up High Street, all the way up Broad Street and College Street. Nothing but people. Nothing but people. I mean, shoulder to shoulder. And of course, you know, the end of World War II was an auspicious event. The fireworks and also the first night, I think, brought out just almost that many people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people out there.
You know, we were talking at the volunteer event that we had.
Right.
Thank you.
Why don't you go into that, because we need to, in 2064, they won't know that we had, at the end, we had a little party, or rather for the volunteers.
For all the volunteers, kind of a volunteer recognition.
Right.
And it was held at the winery out on Eastern Road. And we had, what would you say was there, Caesar? Probably 70 people. We had an excellent turnout, and for that. And but we were kind of talking there, and I said, you know, the amazing thing is you didn't realize, just like Bob said, with the, you know, even with the thousands of people that were there for the 4th of July. You know, you can go just about anywhere. Well, and again, being at a lot of the events, photographing them, you recognize people, but there's hardly any place you go in town, any time of the day, that you don't see someone that you recognize as being part of the Bicentennial, whether they worked on a committee, whether they just participated at the picnic, or I mean, you know, you go to Giant Eagle at 10 o'clock on Sunday night to grab something, you know, last minute, and you see people in there that were involved in the Bicentennial. And it really was a community-wide celebration. I mean, it very, very well attended.
Very well attended. We had more than 70 volunteers.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I bet we had close to 1,000 volunteers.
Every bit of that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because so many people, you know, did little things, and some people didn't accept any recognition whatsoever.
Right.
But you know, every little thing counts. We have just less than a minute to go. Your thoughts about well, shall we put it, your contribution to the 200th anniversary? I mean, what feeling do you have as having been an integral part of the success of the 200th anniversary? But
well, in my case, just the fact that I was able to do it, and you know, I look back and my dad used to take pictures. He was one of the photographer for the Wadsworth News Banner.
That's right, that's right.
And he did that for many, many years. And you know, the history that he brought forward there, and then myself being able to do this, it's a nice feeling.
How about you, Tom? We
Well,
have just a few seconds.
again, much along the same lines. I mean, you know, it has nothing to do really with my name or anything being on it, but you know, knowing that the things that we did this year, people in the future, not just 50 years from now, but wait, are going to appreciate the history that was recorded here, because I know what we did looking at some of the old pictures, you know, for the book and everything else. You just appreciated what they were able to do for us.
And we've come to the end of the hour, unfortunately, and my contribution, as far as I was concerned, the happiest part of mine was the fact that I was alive in 2014. I wrote 3 history books for the event, thinking that I would not be alive, but I was. Thank God. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Caesar.
Yeah.